Great. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Zaffel.
Present.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of minutes from May 4th, 2021.
So move Zaffel.
Second, Ellis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like, without objection, to be able to move item number 12A to next on the meeting agenda. A special honor to Mr. William Chapman. Is that okay with council?
Yeah.
Great. We're going to start this off, and thank you, Alderman. We're going to start off with a proclamation for somebody that's been incredibly influential in our city. Then we'll have a few comments from some folks here to get to the record, so we have a record of what this gentleman has done for both Oconomowoc, but also the surrounding communities. The proclamation is as states, whereas G. William Bill Chapman dedicated himself to the city of Oconomowoc and many surrounding lake area communities, and whereas Bill's charm, dedication, tenacity, friendship, style, and wit was always admired and will be deeply missed by the city and the citizens of this community that he so willingly served. And whereas throughout his lifetime, Bill's impact and many accomplishments have contributed greatly to the law profession, local organizations, and the Oconomowoc community, which include Bill's eloquently and skillfully practiced law for approximately 64 years in our community. He was instrumental in forming the Wisconsin's first joint municipal court, the Lake Country Municipal Court, over at the Public Safety Building, in recognition of a lifetime commitment to the town and country and now the YMCA at Paps Farms. A special award was actually named after Bill William Chapman as a Distinguished Leadership Volunteer Award. He dedicated 50 years of service to Waukesha County Sheriff's Civil Service Commission. In 2000, Bill was honored by the Oconomowoc Chamber of Commerce as a Citizen of the Year award. Whereas for 38 years, Bill has been more than just the city's legal counsel, contributing immeasurably to the city progress as a loyal friend, mentor, historian, negotiator, and whereas Bill should be remembered for his professionalism and his ability to motivate those around him by establishing a superb example of fairness, honesty, and trust. And whereas with Bill's passing, the city feels compelled to recognize Bill and to celebrate his life of service to his family, friends, and our Oconomowoc community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in honor of Bill and Joyce, may their lives and fond memories always be remembered through the community's continued enjoyment and enhancement of the Oconomowoc Chapman's Park. Be it further resolved that I, Robert P. Magnus, Mayor of the City of Oconomowoc, along with all past and present elected officials, colleagues, staff of Oconomowoc, citizens, do hereby formally recognize and honor Bill Chapman on his lasting legacy, and hereby confer upon Bill its highest commendation for the commitment in which he performed for the city of Oconomowoc with special recognition for his professionalism, dedication to service, and kindness to the citizens of Oconomowoc. In witness hereof, we hereunto set our hands and cause the official seal of the city of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, on the first day of June, 2021. This was an incredible man, and I remember him when I was pretty much broke, starting my own business. I would go to his house so I could drive into his driveway. My wife and I would go with our two little toddlers and go down to the public beach right next to his house and go swimming. He and his wife have so many stories to share, and it's really important for history that we get this onto the public record. I've asked two people to come to council today to share this wonderful celebration of Bill First, Maureen Stapleton, would you come up and say a few words, please?
Thank you very much. G. William Chapman, Bill, as most all of us and everybody here probably knew, died peacefully on May 19th, 2021 at Shorehaven Healthcare Center in Oconomowoc. Bill was born on September 8th, 1930 to Herbert and Catherine Chapman. He grew up in Heartland and received his bachelor degree from Ripon College and his law degree from the University of Wisconsin. He served 2 years as an officer in the Korean War, and on June 21st of 1952, he married Joyce Johnson. They had 3 sons, Stanley, James, and John. He was predeceased by his infant son, Stanley, and his wife, Joyce. Bill was passionate about municipal law and the municipal Lake Country Municipal Court, the first such court in the state of Wisconsin, I think. He represented numerous communities throughout his career, as well as dedicating years of service to the Waukesha County Sheriff's Civil Service Commission. He was the longtime treasurer of the local YMCA and was key in helping to build what I always say is our new Y, which is a couple of years old by now, huh? In 2000, Bill was recognized as Oconomowoc Citizen of the Year. His many other good deeds, including hours of pro bono work, mentoring, and counseling, were largely unknown to the general public. He is survived by his 2 sons, his niece, Michelle Burris, other relatives, and lots of friends. A celebration of Bill's life will be scheduled sometime this summer at the new Chapman Park. So, I think Bill's spirit is still here and will linger a long time, because for 38 years he sat up right next to, on the left-hand side or whatever side, I think the left, of 38 different mayors, or not 38 mayors, but a number of mayors. And he, as an attorney, I don't necessarily think he was monetarily driven as he was, let's get something done and let's do the right thing for everyone concerned. And of course, that was his charm and personality. And then there was a fun side to Bill, when we made him go down the slide at the Y when we opened the slide, yelling and kicking and screaming the whole time, but it made it even more funny. And when he'd wear that black top hat for the Centennial Parade, he lit off the parade, and he was just so proud of Oconomowoc and everybody in it, and just really worked hard to make sure that this was a good place to live and to raise your family, and he was a voice of wisdom and reason, and that's what made him happiest, to see it all come to some conclusion through this chamber, or however he did with his own personal clientele and whatnot. So anyway, we remember him in a good spirit, and we're going to have a big send-off for him when we get that Chapman Park built, and it's coming along, and we're getting some donations, and it's going to be a great place for the whole community to enjoy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now ask our attorney Riffle some of his comments. He's known Bill for many, many years, and again, to get onto the record and share a little bit more of Bill.
I always get emotional at these times, so bear with me. I've been practicing law for 41 years. I think I've earned the right, and I've learned about a lot of wisdom concerning how to judge lawyers and how to judge people. You know, contrary to genuine public opinion, lawyers are people. And some people are gentlemen. Not so much anymore. Bill Chapman was a gentleman, maybe the last breed of gentlemen, at least as far as lawyers go. Bill was kind, but he was cantankerous when needed. He was gentle, but he was firm. He was mild, but brutally honest. He was loyal, but even more loyal to this city. Bill Chapman was a genuine person, a real person. Now, when I came on, I said it to the paper, it was one of the proudest moments of my life that he wanted me to be in this seat. Me. Bill and I had lots of battles with one another. We fought all the target wars. I was up opposite of him for years and years and years. But you know what? You learn more about a person as a lawyer when you're on the other side of a dispute than I think in many other instances. You can learn about that person. He was so passionate about this city, but he was also fair. He was honest, never lied, and he would do the right thing no matter what. Now, when I came on, I think there were 3 alderpersons that were here, one of which you had just started, and you didn't really, know Bill. But I sat down with you and kind of explained how he was, guiding the city, and just how he really cared about this city. You know, the old saying is how the ties that bind, Bill was the tie that bound this city through how many mayors and how many alderpersons. He was the city. And as hard as I tried to fill this seat that he sat in, actually it was right over there, there's no way I could do it. I'll try as hard as I can. We must forever remember his contributions to the city. I think, in a modern world, we don't remember things. We have to remember what he brought to the city. And in that proclamation, I heard the mayor say legacy. Legacy is defined as something received from a predecessor. This city in 2021 is a legacy to Bill Chapman.
Thank you. There will be a special celebration for Bill Chapman later this summer. We'll make sure we try to promote and let everyone know. Hope you have a chance to join us in that celebration. But this is a very, very special day for the city to honor somebody that's had such a huge impact. You've heard from 2 people that know him incredibly well. There are many people in this room that know Bill in different ways. And our hats off to you, Bill, and thank you for everything that you've done for our city. We're going to move on to comments and suggestions from citizens. Anyone that would like to make a comment, there are blue cards in the back. You can still fill them out and we'll collect them. What we ask is that you come to the podium, state your name, your full address, not just your road address, but also your city. We have a 3-minute limit, so if you can try to be to the point in your comments, that would be great. This is an opportunity for you to share your views with the council and with the mayor. It's not a 2-way dialogue and debate. If there's something that we want to talk about more later, we can have those discussions after the meeting and also try to find a better venue and enough time to have those discussions. So I'll just go through the blue cards. We're going to start off with Sarah Ninman.
That's a hard act to follow. Switching gears. Sarah Ninman, N64W367630 Woodcrest Drive, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Currently, I'm the business director downtown, and it's been brought to our attention that you may or may not entertain putting the food truck court ordinance back onto the agenda. The business district has asked that I come down here and represent them as a whole today, saying that if you decide to put that back on, we just want to let you know that there are a group of people that want that. They want some more information. They want some input, may or may not be too late for that. And they want to bring up some of their points that they may have not been able to before because they weren't aware that this was happening, especially with the food park court part of it. As in my role, I just want you guys to know that I will, again, put another survey out with a few more specifics so that if you do decide to put that back on the agenda and open that back up, the 70 members as a whole, you'll get a better idea of what they're looking for and asking for and needing. So we can talk about that individually, what kind of specific questions that I can field from them, but I would hope to get a more accurate count for you guys as a whole of how they not only feel, but more specifically their needs, wants, and what they're asking for. So I just wanted to make that clear tonight for us.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Greg Ross.
My name is Greg Ross, 1270 Goldfinch Way in Oconomowoc. Thank everybody for their time. I'm here today representing the hundreds of concerned residents that have signed a petition that I started last week about the unsafe intersection and pedestrian crosswalks on the north end of our city. I'm representing my neighbors who have experienced near catastrophic collisions between speeding vehicles and their families. I'm representing the rapidly growing number of new constituents who have built or are building homes in the area, who will also have to struggle with the dangerous design of these roads. I'm representing my 11-year-old son, Will, who was struck by a pickup truck in an active crosswalk while riding his bike to Nature Hill School on a Monday morning this past March. Most of you already know my name because I've been asking for your help and the help of the Oconomowoc city officials and the help of our police department and the school district and the county and the state for months now. However, only a few of you have done anything materially to improve the situation. I want to personally thank Alderman Kavieski and County Public Works Supervisor Fody and the others that have been working on our behalf to gain attention to this issue. Unfortunately, there are others within the city and county administrations that are not taking this seriously enough to implement real solutions in a timely manner. The reason we have hundreds of signatures and such passionate advocacy is because the danger is so clear and the solutions are common sense. At the Highway 67 and Z intersection, right in front of a middle school, a bike path connects to both ends of the crosswalk where my son was hit. Vehicle traffic is literally given a green light to turn into the crosswalk while it's actively telling people it's safe to cross. To make matters worse, there are virtually no visual indicators to tell drivers that people are crossing. This is wildly irresponsible. The school district doesn't post crossing guards at this intersection and has twice now, in writing, told me it's not their responsibility because they offer busing on the other side of 67. I cannot wrap my head around this thought process. 1/3 of a mile east of 67 at the intersection of Highway Z and Goldfinch Way, there's another crosswalk in front of a city park. I dare any of the adults in this room to cross that road safely. Cars constantly exceed the speed limit and almost never stop for anyone attempting to use the crosswalk. On the rare occasion that a car does yield, oftentimes the car behind them will try to pass them on the right, speeding up to go by. I challenge you to put your children in that situation and say we can't do anything about it because the city, or some people in the city and the county, seem to be confused about whose jurisdiction it is. Yes, there are crosswalk signs there, but they're wholly ignored. Yes, the city upgraded those signs not long ago with tiny dim lights, but you cannot see them unless it's pitch black outside. Yes, the police department thankfully posts officers there from time to time, and they don't have to sit long to pull someone over, by the way. But that doesn't improve the situation the 99% of the time that they're not there. 2.5 weeks ago, I received a memo from our city administrator that essentially stated that virtually no meaningful improvements would be made to these intersections. It noted that they would, in fiscal year 2023, consider adding flashing yellow turn signals to that intersection. It's unacceptable. I live on Goldfinch Way. Within a half mile of my house, there are 3 schools, 2 of which are brand new. There's the aforementioned city park, which is being expanded. There's another city park being planned near the elementary school. There are hundreds of families living in homes and what must be hundreds more being built in the nearby subdivisions. There's a popular grocery store within walking distance of all of this. These problems are not going to go away. They're only going to be compounded with additional vehicle traffic and more people walking and riding in the area. To do nothing or to wait for another more serious accident before doing something is unforgivable. I'm here to submit this petition to the public record and the following demands. Installation of rapid flash beacons at both intersections, a 4-way stop sign at Goldfinch and Z, implement a speed limit reduction to 25 miles per hour on Highway Z between 67 and P, make immediate improvements to the traffic lights at 67 and Z so that traffic turning north cannot legally turn while the crosswalk is active. For example, red turn arrows. We're also calling on the school district to take some ownership and stand up for its students by publicly backing this petition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And we're happy that your son's doing well. Next up is Sam Hansen.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilmen, and women. First and foremost, for transparency, I am a part-time dispatcher at the City of Oconomowoc. I've been in Oconomowoc for the past 18 years, and I'm only 24, so the majority of my memorable life has been spent in this wonderful and unique city. The City of Oconomowoc has never been a city to follow suit. The City of Oconomowoc prides itself on being unique, and that's what makes it such a wonderful city and community to be a part of. Oconomowoc has always remained a strong community with people who care for each other and not only support our local businesses, but also its citizens, and that extends to our local dispatch. For over 30 years, Oconomowoc has had their own dispatch center helping to serve and protect the citizens of Oconomowoc. Our dispatch center is so much more than just a dispatch center. Our dispatch center plays a role in our community. As I stated before, I've spent 18 years in this city and have never felt more a part of this city or like I was making a difference in my community as I have at my time in dispatch. Our dispatchers are truly the bridge between the community and the police department. And whether that's helping with fundraisers, Shop with Cops, which I know some of you guys have come to, so thank you, as well as passing out treats. Our dispatchers love this community and its citizens. They work tirelessly to make sure that they play an everyday role in our community, to make sure that this community stays strong and safe. It's not just answering a phone. It's not just clicking a button. It's about connecting with our officers, connecting with our citizens, and keeping everyone in this community safe. And that is best accomplished by keeping our dispatch local. Losing that type of relationship within the community would be a great disservice to not only our police department, but our residents as well. I could sit here all night and tell you how important our dispatch center is. I could detail the countless hours our dispatchers have spent going out of their role as dispatcher to go above and beyond to help someone in this community. But tonight we're talking facts. We don't need a $32,000 study, a study that is over budget, to tell you these following facts. No dispatcher at a county communication center will ever care as much about this city or its citizens the way local dispatch does, and that's a fact. No county dispatch will only focus on the city of Oconomowoc and put the city of Oconomowoc first. That's a fact. Our officers deserve to have dispatchers who know them, who can tell if a situation is changing just by a single monotone in their voice. That's a fact. The citizens of Oconomowoc deserve to know that they are more than just an X amount of calls taken in a year. They're more than just a stat. They deserve to know that when they call, they're calling to someone who cares. That is a fact. The citizens and officers are safer with those who deeply care about them, who are part of the community and want what's best for the city. That's a fact. And lastly, our city deserves to trust our Common Council, that our Common Council will keep its word, that they will stick to a decision that was made less than 2 years ago. And that is a fact. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Susan Pipp.
It's going to take 3 minutes to get up.
Good evening. My name is Susan Pipp, 905 North Lapham Street in Oconomowoc. Before I start my complaints. I want to acknowledge and say thank you to Karen Spielberg and Kevin Ellis, who are very caring about the Oconomowoc people and our police department. And I also want to thank you, Mayor, for standing up for the flag, which honors our very fine police department. I come here tonight not sure if I'm more angry or more sad. I read the letters in the paper, and I thought Rachel did a fine job answering the original letter, which was, in my opinion, was full of half-truths and innuendos. I realized that even last November, when so very many citizens made their feelings very clear that this outcome was a done deal, because if nothing else, the people that are heading this are very determined to get rid of our dispatch. This makes me very sad and very afraid for our citizens and police. What makes me mad is that they insult my intelligence and the intelligence of every citizen of this wonderful city. They cite financial responsibility. How can this be financially responsible when they showed how fiscally responsible, when they showed how fiscally irresponsible they were when they forced several busy, viable, tax-paying businesses out of our downtown area, took the parking away, and planted tax-sucking grass. I think that the pie chart of the taxes and the other fees that would have been paid by these businesses versus the cost of buying out the businesses, destroying the buildings, and planting and caring for all that grass would make a really good show and tell. Also, harping on spending $32,000 for useless report, which would be better, the money which would be better spent fixing potholes or helping small businesses recover from this horrible pandemic, or making our intersections safer for our kids. It just does not meet the definition of fiscal responsibility. So don't tell us that this is all about fiscal responsibility. This is a vendetta, pure and simple. We in Oconomowoc are very blessed with one of the finest group of men and women who ever wore a badge. You do not have to like them personally, but you do have to understand that when they put on that badge and they go out to put their lives on the line, they are essentially, effectively, in this horrible, scary, dangerous political environment that we live in, they are putting a target on their chest and putting themselves in harm's way, which they do every day to protect every citizen, whether they personally like them or not. They deserve our best. Our dispatchers are the best. The faceless, understaffed, undertrained people at WCC do not know our officers, do not care about them, as they are overwhelmed and understaffed. They are not bad people. They are just badly managed. Our officers depend on our dispatchers to have their back and help them keep safe. The families of our officers, who also serve this community every time their loved ones go off to work, depend on our dispatchers to help their loved ones come home safely at night. Our citizens depend on our dispatchers to get them timely help when they need it. And yes, our dispatchers do answer other calls, but this is financial responsibility. They don't get paid more for that. And they never, ever put anything above the 911 calls except for officer needing help. In closing, I have a question for you all to think about. This has not been brought up, and it really disturbs me. WCC will not and does not have the capabilities to monitor anything. Our dispatchers and officers have advanced training in active shooter situations. Our dispatchers monitor our schools, and God forbid any crazy person with a gun gets in there. Our dispatchers will respond knowledgeably and quickly to help save the lives of our children and teachers. I want you to think about how much is that worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki Gertz.
Vicki Gertz, 1281 Lily Road, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Thank you to our council members and our mayor. I'm here to say that we support our local police officers, and I'm here to say, please keep our local dispatch here in Oconomowoc. We need them. I've called many times, and it's really nice to have an officer at your door in 2 minutes. And I was 8 years old, and I wanted to come and live in Oconomowoc. That was my heart's desire. When I saw the sign that said, "The Oconomowoc churches welcome you," I was an 8-year-old, and I read that sign. And I said, Lord, I want to live in Oconomowoc. So I've been here 50 years, and I know Bill Chapman. Please do the honorable thing that Bill Chapman would want you to do, to keep dispatch here in Oconomowoc. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Stankard. I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name correct.
Thank you very much, Common Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak and offer my opinion. My name is John Stankard. I live on 1285 Lily Road here in Oconomowoc. And essentially, a lot of the things, or some of the things I was going to say, have already been very well identified by previous speakers. But the two things I think that I look at this, first, you have a capital expenditure that's already been committed to the existing system, and more importantly, the service aspect. And this is what I'm hearing from the speakers. The service aspect is really what we're talking about here, and the focus on its cost effectiveness. I think most of us would agree that consolidating with Waukesha, the focus will not be on service for the city of Oconomowoc. And I think that's really what I see is the issue here, the cost effectiveness and its impact on the service quality that this community is receiving. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Lynn Wright.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Aldermen. I'm Lynn Wright, 707 Marigold Street, Oconomowoc. I support keeping the Oconomowoc dispatch local. You were elected to represent the will of the citizens and taxpayers of Oconomowoc, and our will is to keep the dispatch local. This was made clear at 2 previous meetings about the dispatch. It may cost the taxpayers less money to go to WCC, but not much. It is our taxpayer money that we are willing to utilize to do this. Rachel Italiano stated that as of November 2019, the cost was only $5 for the average household. In November 2019, a promise was made to the citizens of this community to not look at this issue for 4 or 5 years, and you are breaking this promise. It doesn't matter that it was another council. You need to honor that promise. It's no different than the OASD School Board needing to honor the promise to sell the old Meadowview property as part of the 2016 referendum by a different school board. It really is that simple. You propose to support our Oconomowoc men in blue, but then don't want to give them the best tools to do their job. A fellow alderman told me that our police chief is saying that our community is safer keeping dispatch local. Our officers say they feel safer, and there is nothing at WCC that can compare to the symbiotic relationship they have with our local dispatchers when our squads are out in the field. It is a great asset to have local dispatch, and once it's gone, it's gone. We don't need a $32,000 study to tell us what our police department heads and our police officers are already telling us. You seek and honor their opinions on many issues, yet you are telling them that their opinion on the dispatch doesn't matter. It is a slap in the face to them. I agree with Mayor Magna's statement in the May 20th edition of the Oconomowoc Enterprise. The issue has been voted on multiple times and sets a bad precedent. If something doesn't go your way, we're setting precedent that if you're not happy, we're going to have multiple revotes on stuff. If we're going to have a revote, I just want to warn council that we're going to look like a bunch of buffoons in the future if we do this, end quote. The issue you should be addressing is why WCC will not release the wireless/cell phone calls to Oconomowoc Dispatch so there is no delay in the transfer. Per Rachel Italiano's guest opinion in the May 20th Oconomowoc Enterprise, Waukesha County refuses to release these calls to Oconomowoc. In fact, Chief Pfister specifically stated this at the November 2019 meeting. We have asked for those cell calls to be released to us, and that has not happened. He also said, we would love the opportunity to take our 911 calls, and I think we could do it just as good, end quote. My personal experience with WCC is that the dispatch does not ask what city you are calling from, and that can cause significant delay. I do not find them efficient. Most residents in Oconomowoc think that when you call 911, the call is going to Oconomowoc Dispatch. That is what causes the delay. A neighbor just told me about a recent incident on the train tracks, and when WCC asked where they were located, they said on the train tracks by such and such. WCC had no idea where they were talking about because they don't know Oconomowoc and didn't answer and didn't ask what city. It caused significant delay in the response time. I also agree with Vicki that Bill Chapman, he loved this city so much, I'm sure that he would have wanted the Oconomowoc Dispatch to stay local.
If you could wrap up, please.
So, last sentence. Please honor the promise and your constitutional oath to represent the will of the people of Oconomowoc, not your will, and vote no to the $32,000 dispatch study. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Italiano.
I'm also for a special election order for the filling Alderman Rogers' vacancy. There's 3 choices: temporary appointment, special election order, and leave vacant. Special election orders.
Thank you. Rachel Italiano.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Italiano, not to be confused with my mom, Kim, who is one of the dispatchers for the Oconomowoc Police Department. I live at 608 South 10th Street in Watertown right now, and before that, I grew up in Oconomowoc, and we lived here for many years. I'm extremely displeased that dispatch services are once again being scrutinized, especially since the 2019 decision was supposed to be the last of this debate for at least 4 or 5 years. The simple fact of the matter is that Oconomowoc is safer with its own local dispatch center, and we don't need an expensive study to prove that. Some of you may argue that this isn't true, and that the 2-tier system that involves transferring between WCC and Oconomowoc is dysfunctional and causes delays. This is actually not true. Oconomowoc dispatches calls immediately, sending responses and transferring as appropriate. On the other hand, WCC runs through its entire call-taking protocol before transferring the call, which can delay a police response. Chief Pfister mentioned this issue at the 2019 meeting, where he also said that he's asked WCC to change their questioning protocols, but that hasn't happened. Here's another fact for you. That 43 seconds is the same response time mentioned in the 2012 study done by the City of Waukesha Police Department when they were looking at the pros and cons of joining WCC. So as of 2019, WCC said that it takes them about 43 seconds to answer or transfer a call. In 2012, that was the same time. It was the same time. So there's been no improvement in that time frame since 2012. Compare that to the average time of 35 to 37 seconds that it takes an Oconomowoc dispatcher to send a response. As Chief Pfister even highlighted in his PowerPoint in 2019, switching services is what will increase dispatch times. Keeping Oconomowoc dispatch local is key to a safe city. While it's a fact that WCC currently receives all cell phone 911 calls in the county, it's also a fact that the equipment Oconomowoc has is more than capable of taking these cell phone 911 calls. The county just refuses to release them to Oconomowoc and to several other dispatch centers, including City of Waukesha, Village of Mugwanago, Muskego, and Elm Grove. And before you ask, this issue also was mentioned in 2019 as well. So Oconomowoc wants their 911 calls. They just aren't getting them from the county. They're not allowing them to have it. It's extremely frustrating that several of you keep bringing up dispatch. You may not agree with the decision that was made in 2019, but it's time to leave it alone. An expensive dispatch study is not necessary at this point in time, especially when there's so much information we can gather on our own. Go review the 2019 meeting and its agenda and minutes. Look at the PowerPoints that were in there and compare the information. Talk with your dispatchers, your police officers, and your constituents. We have all the facts we need. So do you, if you're willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Kilcoyne. I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name right. Sharon.
You did very well.
Good.
I'm Sharon Kilcoyne. I live at 200 West 2nd Street, Unit A in Oconomowoc. And I'm just here with friends and citizens of Oconomowoc, and I'm in agreement with keeping the dispatch here. It just makes sense, common sense. And I do support our police department, very grateful for them. And I've been here 4 years, and this, to me, is a safe city, and it is because of our police department and our neighbors, and it's good to have the dispatch as a local, not take it away from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from the public? I do not have any more blue cards. Any further comments? Thank you all for sharing your opinion for the council. We're going to move on to consent agenda items. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, Zaffel.
All in favor?
Aye.
On to committee reports, protection and welfare. First up, consider act on resolution 21-R2953, granting new Class B intoxicating liquor, fermented malt beverage liquor license to Wine Maniacs. Entertain a motion.
Second, Zaffel.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? On to the next item, consider act on resolution 21-R2959, granting renewal of 2021-2022 alcohol beverage licenses.
So moved, Rozek.
Second, Zaffel.
Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. This was a big deal for a lot of years. We hear a lot about how sometimes we go over things or we look at things. This is something that was actually, liquor licenses were a big deal a couple years ago when I first started, and we fixed this problem by staying persistent, by staying on the issue. And actually, it's one of the first things that Stan helped me fix when he came on as city attorney. And I actually think he might have worked with Bill a little bit on that one. So this used to be actually a very controversial vote because we were out of liquor licenses. We fixed that. Now, kudos to the council and Stan for doing that 5 years ago.
And for the audience, you're seeing some of these votes go fairly quickly. They had several committee meetings, so they've been working on a lot of this detail before today's vote. So I just want you to have confidence in your alderman. So we have a motion on the floor. Been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? On to public services. Consider act on resolution 21-R2958, awarding the contract for the structural demolition at 1375 Royal Mile Road. Mr. Duffy.
As directed by the council, we went out and gotten bids for the former Olympia Theater structure, which we now currently own. Through that process, we received 6 bids. Lowest bid is with New Berlin Grading for $39,000. I'm asking for your approval of Resolution 21-R2958, authorizing staff to proceed with the contract for the demolition of that structure.
So move, Zaffel.
Second, Ellis.
Any further discussion on this one? Call roll, please.
We got one over here.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry. Alderman Zaffel, I missed you.
And just to confirm, this is the same contractor doing the demolition work for Vanguard
That is correct.
Alderman Rozak.
I hate to lecture tonight, but history is always an important tell, right? When we do things, they make a difference in the future, and you should always be willing to address things as they come up. Previous councils had worked at length to repair and fix our bidding process because it was chaotic, it was problematic, and there was overbids, and then later on, additional funds expended. This was something that we were told by a former mayor and a former city administrator that if we did not to exceed contracts, we would never get this many bids. Word for word out of the meeting from those folks. That wasn't true. The changes the council made at that time to make that effective, to keep the contractors that are bidding to a not to exceed price worked. And now we're getting 6 bids and we're able to come to the one that's $60,000 less than the highest bid. That's an effective policy made through debate and really strenuous debates and multiple meetings. That comes up with good policy. So thank you guys for working on that with us.
Entertain a motion?
We have a motion.
I'm
second.
sorry. Any further comments?
If I could, I have not received this before tonight. I need to review it and approve it. Subject to that, that would be great. If you
Motion
would be
amended.
okay.
Would you amend your motion
I
to?
said motion amended, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Just on the demolition one, Stan?
I've not seen it. No.
Oh, okay. Not on the ordinance repeal and recreate?
Ordinance?
There's an ordinance repeal and recreate in here too.
The motion's
Prior to
on
that.
Oh,
demolition.
no, I'm good with that, yeah.
Okay, this is just the demolition.
This is
you're
just the one, yeah.
Right.
Any further comments? Alderman Kavieski.
Just out of curiosity, when we had discussion and debate about the food truck court, you didn't have the ordinance for that. Is there a lack of,
No, I had the ordinance. I drafted the ordinance.
you didn't have it in front of you, though?
I did too. It's on my computer. Absolutely. I drafted the ordinance.
I was just looking.
This is a contract. I just got it tonight. I just want to be able to review it, make sure it's okay.
Based on the motion and the second, any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Thank you.
Next up,
Here, Mayor,
yes,
Mayor's a
Alderman.
point of order. I think there's confusion here because in our packet, we didn't get a copy of the contract.
Correct.
And that's
Wasn't
probably why
available.
you didn't look at it either and why we're all kind of like, what are you talking about? What contract? There's just a resolution in our packet.
So I
that's-
saw the ordinance in the packet.
Okay.
I've reviewed that. That's
Okay,
fine.
just so I think everyone's kind of like looking
Okay.
with kind of dumbfounded, like there wasn't a contract in the packet, so we don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair. On to the next item, Mr. Fry.
Thank you, sir. The item tonight is just a cleanup part of our existing ordinance. Over time, state of Wisconsin's gone from different chapters labeled industry, labor, and human relations, ILR, and now they have the building inspection falls under the Department of Safety and Professional Services, DSPS. So the ordinance repeal and recreate 14.10 and 14.101 are just simply changing the references in those ordinance from those ILR chapters to the DSPS chapters. 14.33, which is on the agenda to be repealed, has to do with electrical license, which because of change in state law, the city has not been issuing any electrical license for some time now. So we're going to clean up that section of the ordinance with this ordinance change tonight. So that's just to completely remove that.
Diane?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that because this is a cleanup ordinance and housekeeping, that council may want to consider waiving the second reading.
I'll move to act on the new changes to the ordinance 21-01109 and waive its second reading.
Second, Kavieski.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
On to unfinished business. Next up is consider act on resolution awarding contract for police dispatch study and related budget amendment. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Rozak, so moved.
Kavieski, second.
Any further discussion? Alderman Kavieski.
I would like to start out by thanking everybody who came out for their comments. The debate associated with this is only a debate because the contract that is being brought forward is in excess of the budgeted line item. That budgeted line item was supported by council unanimously to provide the facts and information by a third-party provider as suggested by our mayor, which I think was a very good idea. When we voted on this a couple of meetings ago, it was actually approved by council 5-2. We had a missing council member, which provided a lack of representation of the community as a whole, and it was not enough votes to hit the supermajority required for the amendment. It wasn't defeated in the vote. It was actually approved in the vote 5-2. So facts matter, and I just want to set that straight in regards to the council's position to support the study as a whole, unanimously passed last year. The budget line item was put in. To infer that somebody who wants to address dispatch services and public safety is in my opinion, disingenuous. I have sat with dispatch, and I appreciate dispatch's service, locally and through WCC. Disparage one over the other, I think, is unfair, and I think WCC does a very effective job. WCC is actually nationally recognized as a quality dispatch center. That is important because facts matter. I do have a couple of questions because our police officers do put on a uniform that puts a target on their back. And in today's society, that means more to me than any of you may realize. They are a portion of our public safety services, and our public safety services are something that I would like some information in regards to how we define that, and I would like to ask Captain Tim a question, and then Chief Bowen a question.
Yeah, not at this time.
Why?
This is not an open debate. This is a discussion among council.
I respectfully request those questions to be asked and answered in regards to the debate.
He can ask the council to overrule your ruling.
Does council want Captain Tim to come up and answer questions?
Fine with it.
Okay, Captain Tim, would you please come up?
Sir, good to see you.
Bet you wish Pfister was here tonight.
I sure do.
He does for sure, I believe.
Watch him, I bet you.
Again, this discussion, this debate isn't about keeping local dispatch or not keeping local dispatch, because truly it is about the study that provides this council with making information, an educated decision about what may or may not be considered at the time that that study is provided. The definition of public safety, I think, is really important as it pertains to that study and unified dispatch or dual dispatch. As it was mentioned by several who came up and made comment. I'd like to know how you define public safety.
Public safety to me is protection of the community by providing the highest quality of service to our citizens. I always go by the 3 E's that I teach my officers, and that is evaluate, educate, and if needed, enforce. That's how I would answer that.
So that pertains to PD specifically, or all three service providers as it provides public safety comprehensively?
Yeah, everybody is a team. We work as one team, fire, police, dispatch. The goal is to provide the highest quality of service to our citizens.
Awesome. Follow-up to that would be, is a dual dispatch system in the best interest and provide the highest quality of public safety?
Yes, I believe that. As most of you guys know, the Village of Mugwanago Fire Department recently consolidated with Waukesha County Communications, so they still have their police department. So we worked very closely with the Village of Mugwanago on trying to create protocols with us, with Western Lakes, being with WCC. We worked very closely in trying to develop protocols on how to get the calls, whether it comes from a landline and comes to us, get transferred over to Waukesha County, or vice versa on a cell phone, Waukesha County comes back to us for our calls. So we worked closely with all entities, try to make sure, again, is a common theme here is the highest quality. We're all one team. I mean, I'm not here to say anything bad about WCC. That's not it. I'm trying to provide you guys with the facts to make an educated decision. So we are all working together to make sure that nothing fails in whether we get the ambulance, the fire truck, or the police there in a timely fashion.
So if I understand correctly, and again, I'm not looking to put you on the spot, I mentioned the questions I was going to ask.
Sure.
So you, right? So you see public safety as a unified service force, and a unified service force that's most effectively servicing our community with dual dispatch.
Yes, I mean, right now, that is what we have. We have us, we have Waukesha County. At this point, as you've heard a lot of people speak, I have several members of my staff here. There's a passion. There's a passion to keep our dispatch here. Again, I just want to provide you guys with the facts to make an educated decision what's best for the citizens of Oconomowoc.
I think the fact that it's passionate and that is undisputable. What I was looking for, and hopefully would come to light through a study, again, recommended by Mayor Magnus, and I completely support that, and apparently so did all of council in order to put it into the budget and support it last time, is considered by this council and then communicated back to the community, because as one of our speakers mentioned, it is our duty to provide our vote in the best interest of our community as a whole, and we do that based on fact that is the best fact that we can gather. So I think that's really, really important to identify, and I appreciate your honest answers. And I'd like to ask those same questions to the other chief that's responsible for our overall public safety.
Chief Bowen, would you come up, please?
Sir, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'd like to ask you the same questions because as we've considered dispatch before, it's been really very specific associated with our PD and not necessarily comprehensively with public safety. I'd like to know what your thoughts are in regards to how you define public safety.
Definition of public safety, in my opinion and our district's opinion, is all public safety pieces. Law enforcement, we work with city PD, other police departments, sheriff's department. So law enforcement, emergency medical services, and fire protection, working in a cohesive manner to provide the highest level of service to our citizens.
Currently use WCC.
We are currently with WCC.
So is it your position factually that a dual dispatch system is in the best interest to provide the highest quality to our community for public safety?
When we first became Western Lakes, we were actually a dual dispatch system. We were with Oconomowoc and we were with WCC, and that was a challenge for us to be on two different systems. At that time, we evaluated both centers and decided with the communities that we serve that we would move to WCC to be with one system.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, not looking to put anybody on the spot, but I think identifying public safety as a comprehensive service delivery system to our community is really important, because as those 911 calls are, a majority of which initiated through cell phones, I think it's 85% of them and going up, they all go to WCC. And there was again, comment about the delay associated with that. And I would take away that based on a couple of aldermen's comments and some other comments made, that there would be a desire to try to take the cell phone initiated 911 calls within our city out of WCC's initial contact, and that will not provide the best service for our community nor the surrounding communities because of a variety of reasons that would hopefully not have to come up. And they wouldn't come up, I believe, if we had a study done. The study is, again, the topic, and it's $12,000 associated with the study because this council approved $20,000 in the budget. So fiscal responsibility associated with $12,000 as opposed to a $600,000 line item is what we are trying to gather the facts to make an educated decision on how to move forward passionately and considerately and effectively. To infer a decision is based on anything other than the best interest of that sole charge that we have to provide the highest quality of public safety to our community, I believe is slanderous. It is not the case. Those are my initial comments. I believe that is why we are looking at this. The compelling reason to look at this again is because we were missing a member of council at the time. That member has now stepped down, and the vote to represent this next step should be taken today.
Alderman Ellis.
Can I call Chief Bowen back up, please?
Let's blow it up.
Oh.
Can I go home there? Yes, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, you had stated that you felt as though you were best serving the communities at which you serve. How many communities do you serve?
We serve 11 communities in 3 counties.
In 3 counties?
Yep.
And at that time, you had both Oconomowoc and you had WCC.
Correct.
How many of those communities solely use WCC?
6.
So the
Yep.
question that you had to ask, and I don't mean to put anything in your mouth, just please tell me if I'm wrong, is we have both Oconomowoc and we have WCC. It's less economical for us at this point to have both systems. Am I correct?
For us, it was fiscally as well as
So it
having
was
calls on
fiscally.
2 different systems.
It was fiscally.
It was two different systems as well. Even
Okay.
our Jefferson County and Dodge County calls go to WCC.
Right.
Because as the shift supervisor, it was hard for us to keep track of where our resources are to provide the services to our residents.
Right, so it was fiscal. All right, so of those 6 counties that were with WCC, how many of them came also through Oconomowoc?
Like, we're served through one of them, Town of Oconomowoc.
It was just the town, but other than that, the other ones were WCC.
Correct.
So it just made sense. It was prudent for you because you had more of a majority of county or cities, whatever you want to call them, municipalities, that were with WCC than they were with Oconomowoc.
Yes.
Okay. So my point here is this. This is just, I understand why now fire went to WCC. It made sense because you had more more cities, more municipalities that used that system than municipalities that used Oconomowoc. Now, I'd like to, thank you, appreciate
Thank you.
that. Can we bring up My other friend over there, where's the chief?
Captain?
Captain. Okay. How many communities do you serve?
We just serve the city of Oconomowoc.
So you don't have 6 or 7 or 11 or however many other communities that you need to go ahead and communicate with at some point in time?
We have one.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Oh, another comment, Alderman Spiegelberg.
I just wanted to clarify a couple things. When Alderman Kavieski says that we voted unanimously for the study, it was a line item in the budget. It wasn't necessarily something that I agreed with, but it was a line item in the budget, and I won't vote against an entire budget just for 1 or 2 line items. When we throw out the $600,000 cost, that is roughly the cost of our dispatch. However, if we went to WCC, we would still be incurring the majority of that amount. I don't have that number, but it is well over 50% for some of the other things that our dispatchers do. I'm just wiped out on this topic. I think everybody is, and I think putting this back on the agenda in this manner sets a bad precedent. We've talked about that. You guys know where I stand on the study. When we voted in November of 2019, 6-2 not to go to WSCC, and then 7-1 to keep our dispatch, we sent a message at that time to our dispatchers and our police that they are valued in this community. We built the infrastructure, we bought the equipment, and yet they and our police force have never been able to just put this behind them as they dedicate their lives to navigating the safety of our city. Talking to other council members, if you guys haven't had the chance to sit down with our dispatchers yet or do a ride-along, it is so powerful. You see the relationship between our dispatchers and our officers and why it's so important to the safety of our city. When you experience that, you really question why a study is needed. And we had the opportunity, as one of the speakers said tonight, to gain all that information in 2019. Our police are asking for one of the most coveted tools to do their job, and that is to keep dispatch local. I've talked to former mayors, former aldermen, former police officers, and very prominent Oconomowoc business owners, and they are all wondering why this issue keeps coming up. So again, I implore you, all of you, to not approve the study at this time.
Alderman Rozak?
Well, unfortunately, we do keep talking about this, and it's because of the last several votes that we've had to keep talking about it. We put it back on the agenda the way we did because I requested the mayor put the item back on the agenda. He didn't want to do that. And we as a city council, by state statute, have the right to control our agenda. That's a fact of law. We actually control the agenda. We have a right to control and add items to the agenda. But without getting into that political debate, we know why there was a revote. Like Alderman Kavieski said, this was voted on 8-0 during the budget cycle. It was a line item, and Karen, you know very well, you can cut line items out if you don't agree with it. I do 100 every budget cycle that I don't agree with, and I lose most of those votes. It was voted on 8-0. It was not even debated. So either people were asleep at the switch, or they thought at the time the dispatch study was a good idea. The dispatch study was originally Mayor Magnus's idea. I agreed with it. It's a great idea. And what I struggle with here on this debate, and the reason we're here voting again is because we keep winning majority votes, but we didn't have enough for the supermajority to make the budget amendment. And at the same time people are opposing this budget amendment now, we're willing to do studies on library space needs. We're willing to do studies on city hall space needs. We're willing to do studies on everything else, but somehow this one isn't important enough to get independent, unbiased information on. And that's problematic. Why would anybody be opposed to the information? Just getting the information. We spend money, we just did most of you weren't here for this, but we just did the strategic planning session. That cost $6,000, half of what we're asking to spend additionally on the dispatch study. And we got basically a rehash of what we did before. Nobody opposed that, and that came from 2 separate line items that weren't even called out in the budget. And nobody complained about that, except for me. So let's talk about suggestions moving forward. It's absolutely absurd to suggest that you can't revisit an issue just because it's been voted on 2 years ago or 3 years ago or a year ago or a month ago. If something's wrong, if something needs to get fixed, whether it's the food truck court ordinance or it's the vicious dog ordinance, if we think we need to fix something, that's what we're here to do. Now, my full-time job as a lawyer, I get the reams of new laws just in Wisconsin every year that we have to put in the books. We still get books in some instances. There's that much new laws recreated every year by our legislature. There's nothing that prevents us from looking at these things again. Ultimately, this vote tonight, though, is not about the dispatch, right? It's about the study. It's about just getting the information. We can hold off on a vote. We can take the recommendation into account and just sit on it. We can debate it. We can look into proper ways to move this or address this moving forward. This allows us the chance to do it. Again, these votes keep getting lost on procedural votes, not on majority votes. The majority of this council has been in favor, and a unanimous majority of this council was in favor of this in November. A couple other things that I want to make a note about today. I had to just shake my head. I'm really happy when people come out and talk. I love it. I love the debate, as many of you can tell. Doesn't bother me. But when people bring up Bill Chapman passing away, who I worked with as an alderman for many years, that he would have been in favor of something, I hope when I pass away that someone doesn't put words in my mouth about what I would be in favor of not. Because I was here when Bill Chapman suggested that we move the fire department into consolidated services and into consolidated WCC dispatch. And I could be wrong, but I think Chapman was still the town attorney when the town moved from city dispatch to WCC and was the town attorney at the time. So I'm not going to put any words in Bill's mouth, but I was here when some of those decisions were made, and I know what side Bill came down on. Look, I've got big shoulders, but what I will not contend with, and what I absolutely think is disgusting, is line items like this, that we are promoting half-truths, that somebody has a vendetta, that aldermen are getting kickbacks from WCC, which we heard 2 weeks ago, that we are not supporting the police, which is patently false and untrue, and that we're not listening to a supposed majority because 6 or 7 people show up here tonight. Those things are not true, and I think, yeah, people, you guys can laugh, but look, yeah, but
Do a referendum, it's the only way to know the majority.
yeah.
No, please, please, no comments from the chambers. Please, it's not a debate,
Yeah,
please.
so, I mean, this is exactly, I have broad shoulders. I don't mind. You guys can, heckle or whatever. But, the bottom line is, I haven't accused anyone on other sides of this debate of having a vendetta, of telling half-truths, of not doing our research, of all the things that several of us have been accused of. And we're here serving the public. My family lives here. I live here. I pay taxes here. My kids will use that fire and EMS service or potentially the police service someday. And I'm doing what I think is the best based on the facts in front of me. So I hope that in the future, instead of heckling or yelling, that people will be respectful and not resort to those type of ad hominem attacks moving forward. Look, at the end of the day, we voted on a strategic plan that talked about public safety. And I think this is an issue about public safety. And this issue tonight is about getting the information. And we shouldn't be beat down and not allowed to get the information when we want to just get the information. That's our job.
Alderman Ellis?
Couple things I heard tonight
Argument.
that I want to, at least in my little brain, voice. And that is the fact that I don't think we can now compare fire and EMS to our police station or police individuals. And the reason why I say that is because the police are dealing with Oconomowoc and only Oconomowoc. Whereas fire is dealing with 11 other municipalities. I can see how things can get pretty complicated with fire when you have 2 different systems and you're trying to make something out of a whole bunch of things. I don't think that at this time it makes sense for us to go ahead and do a study that at the end of the day, we know what it's going to say. It may make sense, may or may not make sense on a fiscal way, but I just don't see that because you're dealing with one city and trying to compare it to 11 municipalities. In my own little brain, I remember going through this debate a few years back, and I did not know at that point that you could take a line item out of a budget. I was new. I didn't understand how it works. I still don't, but I'm learning. However, if I had known that, I probably would have taken it out. The bottom line as I see it is, this is what I believe, my own belief, is going to happen. If it does pass, we're going to get some study done, which is going to go ahead and say, yeah, we need to go ahead and do this because financially it makes sense. And then that's going to give whomever a leg up and say, look, see, we need to do it. We need to do it now because this is what the study says. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a snowball effect. When in essence, I do remember that we stated after the last vote back a couple of years ago that we were not going to visit this again, not for a while, because we were so interested in making sure that we moved everything from where it was currently to where the new police station was going to be. And we were going to spend well over $500,000 to do so. Now, what also concerns me is this. I've spoken to other communities, and some of them have gone over to WCC. For you to be able to do that, you've got to be put up to speed with their equipment, with their computer programs, with their system. I don't think that's free. I could be wrong, though. So in essence, we're going to do this study. Then we're going to go ahead. If it's approved by council, we're going to start the process of going there, which thus means we're going to be spending money that's not in our budget at this point, that I'm aware of. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do a study, but we got to be men and women of our word. We told our community that we would wait, and I think we need to do so. Thank you.
I have 3 more comments over here on the left, so we'll start in order. Alderman Mulder.
Thank you. Been on the council a year, and I think I've spent more time in the past week thinking about this than I have the rest of the year combined. So please know that whatever I say here is with a lot of thought behind it. And I would say right now, I don't even know how I'll vote in 5 minutes or whatever that is, but here's how I feel about it. I would love for dispatch to stay in Oconomowoc forever. I think it's ideal. I think the camaraderie among the staff is incredible. I think the passion of people coming out, and you probably have family and friends that wonder what the heck you're doing and why you care so much. You're on the staff, you have family members certainly, but what I don't know as someone who isn't in law enforcement or in city government for long is exactly how to define what best-in-class dispatch looks like. And that's why in the RFP, I had them put in there, we want them separate from their advisory to give us an overview of what they believe best-in-class dispatch looks like. And I don't actually believe there's anybody on council that's qualified to tell me what that is, because none of us are involved in that. I don't think the timing is great. We're only 18 months down from that vote, but it's also not going to stop coming up. So whether we vote now to do this study or we vote in a year to do this study, I'm sorry, it's not going to stop. I know this is a contentious issue, and that there are several aldermen who have spoken tonight that this is something that they feel passionately about. And until we do the study, I won't have any answers to really effectively debate whether we should do it or not. And I know it's really difficult, and I know it's very stressful to work in that situation and to have to live with that. And as far as the referendum goes, this is so complicated of an issue that I don't know how we inform the public well enough for them to make that decision. I know, people are going to come down on the side of keep it local, because why wouldn't we want to do that, right? Why wouldn't we want this to be local dispatch? But we have to know, because the number one thing, and I don't care about the expense, if it was $200,000 more to keep it in Oconomowoc, I'll vote to keep it here. All I care about is that people are safe. And I cannot know for sure that people are safe having two different systems in place, because I don't know enough about it. And only an independent study will tell me that. And so I think you can hear, I'm going to vote to move forward with the study, because if we don't do it now, we'll do it later, and the sooner we can get that information, the sooner we can start finding ways to perhaps keep it in Oconomowoc if it goes the other way. But I will tell you this, if it simply comes down to money, when we get that study, I am going to vote to keep it in Oconomowoc, and you can hold me to that, because this is not about money, it's about safety, and saving $100,000 the first time we have an accident that could have been prevented. It's not a place I'm willing to be cheap, and if people don't want me spending that money, then vote me out of office. So that's what I have to say.
Alderman Kavieski.
I think Alderman Mulder summarized a few of the things that I was going to mention. Again, this has come up for a long time, and the first time it came up while I was on council, I voted to support local dispatch. The information that I've gathered over time has led me to look for more information. That study's going to provide it. So I'd like to make a motion to move forward and take the vote.
But we also have a motion has been made and it's been seconded, and we're in the comments section. Any further comments from the council? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel. Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Nay.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
5 ayes.
So the motion passes. On to new business. Consider act on development agreement for Morgan Station subdivision.
Thank you, Mayor. The agreement before us tonight is for a subdivision that's being proposed for the southwest corner of the city on the corners of Morgan and Valley Road, Morgan Station subdivision. 47 lots that are out there. This is our standard template that we use for development agreements. I did note a couple of the changes in the background memo so that the council would be aware that generally I come up here and say it's our standard agreement with no changes. We have some slight changes in here. First one being sidewalks. They have a cul-de-sac that comes off of Morgan Road, and we've allowed them to only have to place sidewalk on one side of that, and that gets into a whole path extension that I'll talk about in the next item. Street trees, this will probably be the last time that I mention that it's, different, because this is now our new standard language, but they'll pay for the street trees up front. But the park impact fees, and then the multi-use path. So this is something different that we're doing with here in Corey O'Donnell, who's hopefully still sitting behind me, that he didn't leave with the other people. But we've had a lot of conversation, and as a council, we're always looking at how do we get improvements into subdivisions, how do we get connectivity. So what they did was they looked at their outlots, potential outlots for this development. They went to the Park and Rec Board, said, we want to dedicate these to the city. Generally, the city doesn't own the outlots. This allows them to create what parks people, they're not public works, but I still listen to them. They refer to them as linear parks. And so in the development agreement, they're going to dedicate 3 of their outlots. In exchange for that, they get parkland credits. So if a developer comes in, they put in a little park or they dedicate land, we give them credit for it. They still pay a portion of the park impact fee. The park impact fee is about $2,800. They're getting $1,200 credit, so they're still paying $1,600 to go to the parks. In this development, they're gonna take, both the credit that they're getting, the fact that they're able to dedicate the outlots, and we allowed them only to do the sidewalk on one side on a cul-de-sac, which a lot of times, even in this case, we might not have required it at all, but once again, it comes in with this path, that they would put in the 8-foot wide asphalt multi-use path along Valley Road at their expense. So we're gaining a path out of this. So something different that we haven't done in past development agreements, but we think this has worked out very well in this case and look forward to try and move that ahead. The last item is there's some deferred assessments that were on this property because sanitary sewer and water extended out there many years ago. So all that wording is in here on the amounts that they have to pay and what the cost is of the interest on a per-day basis, so that we use the June 1 as a cutoff date, that if that payment comes, well, it's obviously going to be after because today is June 1, but that they'll know what that amount is. So other than that.
With them right now.
Pardon?
He's got a check with him right now.
Yeah, don't take it. Don't take it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll meet him in the back and we'll get this all squared up. So other than that, it's all the same, just those few minor changes. And I think the one's pretty exciting that we're able to try a different way of doing things and, doing the linear park and having the developer put in the path.
Any questions for Mr. Fry? Alderman Rozak.
Wasn't there a linear park in Hickory Road Farms on the backside as well?
It's not, that was a larger lot. That was.
Is this one gonna connect with those somehow?
Not directly, but the subdivision, one of the outlots that they are dedicating, outlot 4, goes up and ties into the outlot that extends north-south between the homes on Morgan Road and Hickorywood Farms. So that outlot would allow us to connect through there.
So at some point, you think you'll be able to connect those 2 sections?
Yes, we could do that.
Because there's kind of a passive park.
We would own all the land that we would need to do that.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that. That's a good plan, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And the paved pathway would help begin the process of connectivity from the west going east over to the middle school.
Correct.
Yeah, great.
Any further questions? Like to entertain a motion?
So moves Zaffel.
Second, Ellis.
Any further comments? Please.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Next up, under new business, is consider act on the process to fill the District 3 Alderman vacancy. Before we start this, just a quick comment. I'd like to, on behalf of the city and the staff, I'd like to thank Alderman Rogers for his time in working with the city and fully understand sometimes life gets in the way and you can only do so much. Thank you very much for your service. I'm going to turn this over to our city administrator. Or would you like to go to Diane?
I'm going to turn it over to the city clerk.
That's called passing the buck, isn't it?
Gotcha.
What I put in a council packet was a memo regarding options for council to fill this vacancy. As of June, there are 23 months left in the term of former Alderman Rogers. And so council can look at doing actually a number of things. One is to temporarily appoint someone to fill that position until council wants a special election, and there are options on when to have that special election. The other is to just have a special election with no temporary appointment. And then the other would be obviously to leave it vacant. I can tell you past practice by council, the last time, 2018, there was 11 months left on the term of the alderman who resigned, council chose a special election. With that in mind, I looked at the dates to hold a special election and when would be the soonest date and also what would be the most practical date to hold a special election. And I came up with August 17th, and that date could be possibly the primary date, or it could be the election. And the primary is dependent on how many individuals would submit paperwork for candidacy. And then council would have, if there was more than 2, council would have to take action whether or not they wanted to hold a primary. And I will say that typically if there are 3 candidates, council chooses not to hold a primary. However, we did hold a primary for another aldermanic vacancy. There were, I didn't look it up, but there were 4 or 5 on the that would have been on the ballot.
There were 4.
4, it was 4, yeah. So council chose to hold the primary. One of the reasons I looked at August 17th is because the very, very earliest we could have the election would be August 3rd. However, that gives us absolutely no wiggle room. If one thing is missed and doesn't follow the statute, we couldn't hold that election. So then I looked at August 10th, and August 10th doesn't give us any gain than August 17th. I'm also trying to stay away from conflicts with the 4th of July holiday and Labor Day holiday. So there are factors, and you know, if you need me to go over the different things, but I just, the 17th of August really does work well. I don't want to create a problem for the county by going sooner than that, because I've spoken to them, and although they say they probably could get me the ballots by a date specific, that didn't make me feel 100% assured. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on process. The one other thing I did want to mention, if council chooses to do an appointment temporarily, we could look at a special election next April when we'll do the other aldermanic seats that will come up. And it would still be, they would still be elected for a 1-year term, because again, there are 23 months left.
Okay, you answered my question.
Alderman
Oh, I did?
Zappel.
Okay.
I was going to ask
Oh.
how many months are left on the term.
Okay.
Alderman Rozak.
I'm all for a special election. I think this absolutely has to be an elected position, given how much time's out there. And I remember when Karen ran, and we forced her, and the gal you ran against, right, to do it in a truncated period of time. What I will note, though, what I recall with Karen's election, because I helped her pass out flyers, was it was in the middle of summer. And that's a really tough time, not only for engagement of the public, but for the candidate. You know, if you have a family vacation planned, you know, end of July, early August, and you're actually considering running, you might just not do it. My preference would be to put the election into that September 21st time slot and give people the run-up time. Because whoever is going to win the special election has a really, really good likelihood of winning the next time around. And I think we should give whoever wants to run a good lead-up time. They can think about it for the next month and then decide. If we do this August 17th, they're literally going to have to decide like tomorrow, get papers in and start getting ready for an election that could be 3-4 weeks away. And if we push it out a little bit, you think about how many meetings that person's going to miss. It's not going to be that many. It's going to be 4 or 5 extra meetings at most. So that would be my preference.
Alderman Shellpepper.
What's the cost of the special? Curious about that.
The out-of-pocket cost, and this does not include staff time, is just under $2,000. So if we had to have a primary and an election, you'd be looking at basically $4,000.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the September 21st also. When I ran and I had an opponent, same thing, it's middle of the summer. The election was actually like 10 days before my daughter's wedding. So I was out pounding the streets and knocking on doors. And the other aspect of a summer election is you might not get as many people to turn out to vote. I mean, there were many more that turned out to vote with my special election than they predicted. However, that's not always and necessarily the case. So I would prefer that September 21st too. And it gives candidates a better chance maybe to get some quality candidates to come into that position and to be aware of what's going on, and yeah.
We do it too fast.
Alderman Kavieski?
Sorry.
I support that as well. And even though it's a little bit farther out, not having an appointment in between, I think is really important to leave it vacant. The vote is still based then on 7 seated council as opposed to 8, so we know how to address that. And if we were to do a temporary appointment, that person could run as a re-elect type position, and I don't think that would be fair in the process, so.
Alderman Rozak, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just, I was gonna agree with Karen, yeah, I mean, I think we have sometimes a struggle to get people to run for office, and if we make it too truncated, anybody that's thinking about it at all, they're just gonna say, no way, I'm not gonna try to do this in a month and a half, and in the middle of summer when I have vacation planned, so.
Diane, any downside of having it in September or October?
No, council will have to, when I'll rework the dates, so when the deadline is for candidacy paperwork, if there are more than 2, council's going to will have to make it, because there's 2 council meetings a month, when they have to act on that. The one thing to consider is if only one candidate takes out paperwork, will you still want to hold a special election? Because this is an off time, so it's not on people's radars. And with holidays and summers and school ending and school starting, people may not necessarily know of the vacancy or have time to vet it out themselves or with their family. So we could potentially only get one individual that takes out paperwork. So council then could re-examine that, decide if we're still going to hold that special election.
I think that's a good idea.
Is that correct, Attorney
Yes.
Riffle?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to pull the trigger right now.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
And how can we as a city promote this a little better than we've done in the past maybe to try to get some quality candidates?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's going to take all of us, getting the word out. At this point, I think it sounds like everybody's in a fairly good consensus. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll move to set a special election for September 21st, if necessary, and there's more than one candidate.
So move Zaffel. Second. Zaffel, sorry.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
All right.
Great, and on to staff reports, the introduction of our new IT supervisor. So this will be Ms. Sullivan, and this has been a process because we started this actually last summer, looking at an internal IT audit from a safety security standpoint and then from an operational standpoint, and then you, the council, approved through the budget the addition of this position. And we thought it would be nice to have you all be introduced, and we'll turn it over to you, Laurie.
Sure. Yeah, we thought you might be wondering, who's that new guy over there behind the TV? So our new IT supervisor is Dan Uribe. I said it right this time. He comes to us from the private sector where he was in charge of the network for a manufacturing firm. In your packet is a summary of what Dan's been up to for the last 30 days. And before I let him tell you a little about himself, I need to tell you how happy I am that he's here and how it has really upped the level of what we can do here in-house on our own, keeping our network secure, getting our backups done, getting our updates done in-house, and saving us a bunch of money.
Yeah, kudos.
Thanks, Dan.
Hello, I'm Dan. I've been in IT for many years, more than I care to admit. I really like it here. I'm happy to have the ability to make some improvements that I think that will make a big difference. I'm happy to be potentially saving the city a lot of money. I think if you look at the numbers at the end of the year, you'll be impressed.
Yeah. And I really welcome you here, Dan. I looked at a few things with you the other day or last week, and if you have a chance to meet them, it's kind of a wow factor from where we were to where we're going. We still have a lot of work to do.
Plenty.
And it's taking an old system and updating it, and now with the stuff that Joe's doing with GIS, all of those different components, it's going to really, really help the system and the city work much smoother. Do you have any questions for Dan? Alderman Rozak.
I just want to welcome you here, Dan. Two things. One, can I go back to an Apple iPad instead of the stupid Microsoft? Oh, no. Damn. Okay. I thought I'd just get that out there right away. And second, did you know that you have to come to every council meeting now that you're the IT director? and sit through these?
Poor Ivan has done it for the last few years, and, you know, I felt that he needs a little break.
Okay.
Plus, somebody should know how to do it.
Yeah, good, fair. Thanks. Well, welcome to the city.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We should look into the remote running of these. I mean, we run a large
Love to
3T
be able to
magnet
do that.
remotely
Absolutely.
from out of state and run images. We should be able to easily do that here too. So something
Happy to
to
look
think
into
about.
that.
We're coming close to budget, so it should be really inexpensive.
You have to pay me extra
Welcome
to be
aboard.
here.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, thanks, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, we're going to move on to any comments from Alderman. Any comments? Alderman Ellis.
Okay, two things. First thing is, police department. The grass area looks like, okay, I'll just leave it at that. You guys can figure it out.
It's being addressed.
What does that mean?
It's going to get fixed.
Okay, because I don't want to have to get my weed whacker out again. And yes, I did. Okay. The other thing is, I was driving into the city not too long ago, and I noticed that one of the population signs had us at 14,000 individuals. I'm hoping that we can change that.
Really?
Yeah, no, literally. And then when I went on the other side of town, it said like 16,000. So.
It's an average between.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if we can do something about that, I would really appreciate that. Because it kind of, you know, I know devil's in the details.
I believe
but
the initial census should be out August 1st, and then we'll try to change things probably once we get the final numbers.
I would really appreciate that, because it makes us look really dumb. It really does. Well, thank you, especially the police stuff. If it's not done within a week, I'm getting my weed whacker out.
Alderman Mulder.
Again. Thanks. First, I thought the Memorial Day services, and I was by the bridge for that. It was really fantastic. So that was, it was great. We were there throughout the entire rethrowing and everything. So thanks to everybody who made that happen. I just wanted to say, we've talked about, you know, with the unusual agenda item we replaced on the agenda for this week, and the concept of precedent has been put out there. And I don't, as a voting body, precedent doesn't exist. Like, voting on something once does not preclude us from voting on something again or guarantee that we will. And I just want to be out there on record that the only reason I voted to put that back on the agenda was because it was procedural, that we got the vote wrong, and I know that would have been delayed had we known what the voting was, and that would have taken only a majority, which would have happened. So that's why I signed it, and that's why I was okay voting on it again. I won't vote to add anything back to an agenda because it didn't get approved throughout the normal voting processes when we all knew what was going on. Right. So I would encourage all of you to think the same way. We have processes. If it loses, it loses. Find a way to get it back on creatively and improve on it. But just bringing something back for a vote will never get my vote. So.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
I just wanted to say it was really fun being a part of the groundbreaking for Olympia Fields. It was a great day in the city of Oconomowoc.
Yeah, that was fun.
You didn't
guys were
hear
so-
part of the RFP, you're part of the wrecking crew now.
Yeah. As long as you don't want to see a graceful step off of the dozer from me.
Well, my favorite was watching you guys with the sledgehammers. I really enjoyed the four of you that were able to participate in that because You think of all the work you put together to get to that point, and the whole community, many councils before you had tried to do that. We just got lucky because the timing worked, and we were able to come together and work together. So thank you, Karen. Alderman Kavieski.
So a couple of points that Alderman Muller mentioned. Again, the Memorial Day ceremony was fantastic. I was at the band shell, so a little bit different viewpoint. And Tim Gossett's comments were spot on. History is not to be rewritten or forgotten, but to be referenced and learned from, that we struggle with as a society, and we need to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to ensure our freedoms. And it was just a spectacular event. And to Alderman Mulder's point about readdressing a vote, I would concur. There needs to be a compelling reason to readdress a vote that was not approved. It can't just keep coming back because somebody wants it, and that compelling reason needs to be communicated, and the procedural issue, I think, was a compelling reason to bring it back. So, you know, facts change, information changes, approach changes, and those should be considered as things are brought back up. Finally, I have received some communication about some public comment that was made by a family member. I will let you know, and the community know, that free speech and the ability for somebody to come up and speak their mind is theirs alone. And to have an elected official request or demand an apology associated with a comment that a family member, any family member, makes is out of line, it's uncalled for, and if we're going to move forward together as a council, it shouldn't be done again. So I just wanted to make that very public, because we all have family, we all have friends, whether it's your wife, your brother, your sister, whoever. Because you're elected doesn't preclude them from their opinion. It doesn't preclude them from their voice. And to infer it does denies their ability to be a citizen in our community. So I just wanted to end with that.
Alderman Rozak.
Just really briefly, there were so many things going on in the community in the last 2 weeks. Memorial Day celebrations, and it was amazing. Matt and I were both at the bridge together, apparently, because I was there too. And then later in the park, or not the park, the cemetery, and the ceremony there was amazing, very compelling. It's good that we honor those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom of speech, for our freedom of assembly and religion. So that was great. Olympia groundbreaking was great. There were other groundbreakings. I mean, there were so many things going on, I couldn't make it all. And that's really, that's 3. That's crazy. And I know the mayor probably did. And he's got a sledgehammer or 2.
The last one we got ice
I
cream.
almost stole that sledgehammer too at Olympia, by the way. I walked by that thing and I was like, oh, I wanted that sledgehammer so bad. The other thing I want to say, just again, very briefly, I know the dispatch debate is fraught with emotion and consternation and wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth, but I think I want to compliment the council, because I think even though we disagree on certain things and we have a candor and debate, I think we handle ourselves as a council very professionally. I think we don't insult each other's intelligence. I think we tackle a topic as best we can with reason and logic. We don't agree on things, and that's fine. That's what this is all about, which is why I enjoyed the debate. And so I want to compliment the council. I think the debate is healthy, and I never shy away from a debate, because I think it's what democracy is founded upon. So So kudos to everyone.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I also wanted to recognize Memorial Day yesterday. I had the opportunity on Saturday to take my 2-year-old to the LaBelle Cemetery to put out flags on gravestones of Oconomowoc veterans no longer with us. That cemetery has some amazing history. Just in the time I was walking through, I saw, Civil War veterans, World War I veterans. Some of the veterans, World War I died in France. Another veteran died in Vietnam. It's really humbling that this community has been stepping up for this nation since its inception, since at least the Civil War. It's humbling to be a part of, and it's all in service of the ideals and commitments that flag represents right there, the red, white, and blue. And so I'm just so proud of being part of this community, so proud of for the fallen service members who have sacrificed their life. 19 years old, 18 years old, 17 years old, never got to buy a beer, never had to have a drink. It's a lot. And so this community really stood out. Everyone stepped up. City Beach was packed for the ceremony. It was really impressive. So I'm really proud to be a part of this community. And God bless the dead.
Alderman Ellis.
And also, I was there and I thought they did an outstanding job, just outstanding. Brought me to tears a couple of times. Something really nice happened over the last week. My son was commissioned from the Naval Academy. He is a proud Oconomowoc individual who has gone through the whole system at Oconomowoc from 4K through 12th grade. So I really have to thank Oconomowoc for what Oconomowoc has done in my family. And I'm proud to say that I live here. That day I went over to our Veterans Memorial and I sat there and I looked around and brought tears to my eyes on how many individuals, how many families, how many people sacrificed themselves for our freedom. And not just in Oconomowoc, but for our whole nation. So I just need to share that with you.
Any further comments from Alderman? With no comments from the mayor, had a lot of nice comments about the weekend and things going on. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Kavieski.
Mulder, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.